U.S. lawmakers are raising red flags about the very porous border between Canada and the U.S. and the potential of terrorists coming to Canada, going to the U.S., and the other way. Hello, I'm Adrienne Batra. With me are Lorrie Goldstein and Brian Lilley. Brian, Florida Senator Marco Rubio has written a very strongly worded memo, shall we say, about the concerns the United States has about the potential of terrorists going down to the south, coming up north, because of our porous border, lax rules in some cases. So what has the senator said?
Well, so this is precipitated by two things. One, a sobering statistic coming out of the Department of Homeland Security in terms of how many people have been intercepted at the Canada-US border trying to go from Canada to the United States with suspected terrorist links. And the other is the Trudeau government's plan to bring in 5,000 people from Gaza, a place where overwhelmingly the population supports Hamas, which is a terrorist group, or they support Palestinian Islamic Jihad, another banned terrorist group in both Canada and the United States. So Senator Rubio, along with 5 of his colleagues, wrote a letter to the Secretary of Homeland Security and said, look, we've already had so far this year 233 suspected terrorists stopped at the northern border. That's more than one a day, Adrienne. And in fact, when you look at the stats from the border agency, it's more than they're picking up in terms of suspected terrorists at the southwestern border. So this is going to be cause for concern. And also this year, that 233, I'm just going to pull up the stats right here. That's more than the total in 2018. It's more than the total in 2017. It's just shy of the total for 2019 for the full year. So they're intercepting a lot of people that have suspected terrorist links at the border already. Now we're bringing in 5,000 people from Gaza. The United States is not accepting them at this time. Once they get here, they will be given what's called a temporary resident visa. That, under current international law, including the United States, 146 countries, will recognize that as a passport. So the senators are saying, what are your plans? We're going to have this big change on our border. We've already got a problem. We know the makeup of the population coming in. What are your plans for ensuring the safety of the United States? I don't think that these are unfounded concerns. And the Trudeau government should not just be dismissive and say, oh, well, Republicans, oh, well, they're racist or this or that. After 9/11, there were a lot of false claims that the 9/11 attackers had entered the United States from Canada. And there were calls to make the border more difficult to navigate, to thicken it, was the phrase used at the time. Jean Chrétien didn't just dismiss that. He dealt with it. He sent John Manley to basically camp out in Washington for a good time, dealing with any and all concerns that the Americans had. And if you speak to Manley about it, he will tell you it was hard work, but it had to be done. I'm not sure that the current administration up in Ottawa is ready to do that kind of hard work to alleviate these concerns.
Lorrie, that we know, because we see it every day, the U.S. has a massive problem on their southern border, millions pouring through over the last how many years, many gotaways, so to speak. So they have a domestic problem too. And we certainly have these challenges and concerns in Canada as well. So I'm wondering, with this heightened environment, we have weak leadership. Globally, we have weak leadership, both in Canada and the United States. The new Democratic nominee for president, Kamala Harris, she was supposed to be the border czar. That hasn't worked out. Does Canada heed this, or do they, like Brian says, just dismiss this as Republican rhetoric, trying to garner attention, trying to scare people? Or is this a very real current present danger, so to speak, that Canada needs to take seriously, even though we have an unserious federal government?
Look, the protection of Canadian citizens is the primary and appropriate job of the federal government, from both domestic, excuse me, and international threats. So of course it's serious. Politically, the way I look at it is that political parties have views that they look at as sword issues and shield issues. Sword means you attack the other side. Shield means you have to defend yourself from the attack. And to me, the problem with the federal Liberals is that they have always looked at immigration as a sword issue for them, because that anything they say to promote immigration we want the conservatives to be opposed to it so we can say they're racists, and they're xenophobes. And so the problem is when real serious issues arise, such as, not just in Canada and the United States, everywhere, terrorists trying to, infiltrate our society to cause a harm. Obviously, currently, this is an enormous area of public concern, particularly because of the war in Gaza. And we've all seen the reactions of that issue. And so to me, there ought to be serious efforts on, remember, if it's a couple hundred they know about, how many don't they know about, right?
Yeah.
The argument was based on, look, we caught these people, right? But we all know that's not everybody. There's more. And to me, going right back to the prime minister saying a long time ago when Trump was president, basically to the world, bring us your tired. It was basically, the Statue of Liberty thing, we'll always accept, because he wanted to virtue signal against Trump for being anti-Muslim, right? And then the border, there were more people coming. Why wouldn't there have been more? If you send out that kind of signal, right? And I'm not saying they're all terrorists. They can be economic refugees. But if you send out that kind of signal that we're welcome everybody because we are the world and all that, of course it's going to happen. And that's what's happened. And I think the government has made some efforts to address it. And let's be fair, this problem of a leaky border goes back way before the Trudeau government. I mean, there were Auditor General's reports about, we got 35,000 refugee claimants or whatever. Yeah, we don't know where those people have gone. Doesn't mean the terrorists, right? And so it's a systemic problem in Canada. And as both of you have observed, if and when Poilievre, if he is the next prime minister, tries to clean it up, because we all know it ought to be cleaned up. Oh, the racists and you're against these people. Because let's be clear, nobody's saying thousands of Gazans coming in. I'm sure many of them have horrible stories, and as our role as a decent country, we should bring them in. But what I'm concerned about is that when the political signal to the bureaucracy and the refugee boards and all that is, oh yeah, we're bringing in these people because we care about them, right? Are they going to apply the normal standards to vetting them? And so it's just one of these ongoing problems by a government, which their defense in all this is, oh, conservatives. If you disagree with us, you're racist. And that's so infantile when everybody knows this is a problem everywhere, and governments all over the world, democratically elected, Europe, United States, are trying to deal with it. And
well, if you remember, do you remember, Lorrie, in 2016, there was the whole the rush to get the Syrian refugees in, and the Trudeau government's initial plan was not to screen or vet anyone before they got on a plane and came to Canada. They were going to fly thousands of people to CFB Trenton and then start screening them. And it was only because of media and political opposition and public polling, by the way, showing this is a really bad idea, because once they're on Canadian soil, the charter applies. And even if they are, let's say they'd been part of Assad's regime and they were sneaking out of the country, or they were part of the terrorist groups fighting Assad's regime and they snuck out of the country, we would not have been able to get rid of them. They did end up applying a very strict screening criteria, but only because they were forced to. And my worry is that they won't apply the same kind of strict criteria here. And we're talking about people coming out of a war zone in a district and a region, a territory run by a terrorist organization. We have to be concerned, and we should be applying a strict scrutiny to everyone coming in. And the Americans have every reason, because of those same issues I just mentioned, to be concerned about that. But this is, as Adrienne put it, an unserious government.
Yeah. Well, let us know what you think in the comments below. Like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and go to thetorontosun.com. You're going to find commentary and coverage there you will not find anywhere else.